Welcome to Wonderful Wednesday. We have Greg and Barb Habben with us, and they are going to talk a little bit about NAMI Chippewa Valley. So, Barb and Greg, tell us, what is NAMI and what does it stand for?
Do you want to answer that?
Sure. NAMI stands for the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And we're the local chapter of a larger state organization, and then obviously there's a national organization too that we're all associated with. So there's a hierarchy. We get a lot of help from the NAMI Wisconsin. In particular, they get a lot of help from the national organization. So it's a great organization to be a part of. We get a lot of support.
It's the largest grassroots organization that's dedicated to mental illness and mental health.
What is it about it that's grassroots versus another model?
Well, it actually started here in Wisconsin, which a lot of people aren't really aware of, by two mothers in Madison who had sons that were dealing with schizophrenia. And from their support of each other, they realized that it really meant so much to them to be able to talk to each other and be able to be supportive, but also just to better find ways to advocate for their sons. So they realized that there were probably other people that could use that kind of support and ideas for how to better deal with the challenges that they were struggling with themselves. So that's when they started looking around and they found other people in the Madison area, and then it just kind of became sort of something that they figured out in other parts of the country. People were starting to do the same thing. Yeah, and this is actually the 40th anniversary this year.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
What is it that is the hardest change during COVID for NAMI as far as operating and reaching people?
Well, like most other organizations, I mean, we've had to stop in-person, face-to-face contacts with a lot of our programs were designed that way. We basically have programs that we run right now that are aimed at helping families of individuals living with a mental illness. And we, in the past, have had, face-to-face classes, face-to-face support groups. We have moved the support group to a virtual online format, but we haven't been able to figure out a way to do the family to family and basics classes. It's just a little more daunting. There's a lot more materials. There's a lot more to those programs, and to try and put that online is a daunting task for people that are just volunteers doing this as on a volunteer basis. So we've kind of put those programs on hold. We're just doing
right
the
now.
family support group right now. We're hoping at some point in the future to resume those sort of things. We still do support calls. We have a warm line that people can call to get help, and we try and give them resources.
Looking for resources,
and provide resources and help for people when we can. We're not a crisis line. We're not crisis trained or anything, but we do refer people or send them to other resources that hopefully can help them. So our mission basically for NAMI Chippewa Valley is to provide education, support, and advocacy for families and individuals living with a mental illness. So we're trying to make a difference in the community.
What is it that drew you when you were small to things like things as far as helping others? I know you're kind of in a helping profession, and Barb, you are a retired teacher, which is also, I would consider, a helping profession. What is
Yes.
it in your lives that makes, I mean, I know you volunteer a number of hours, but what is it growing up that kind of gave you those values as far as helping others?
Um, I don't know exactly for sure where this motivation from my childhood came from, particularly, other than I did have one person who was actually my godmother because I was baptized in the Catholic Church, who was really a volunteer and a real helper person. She and her husband both, who were my godparents. Um, I was very drawn to what they did, and I was always, pretty impressed with all the things that they did. My own family, that wasn't so much what I saw. Um, and a lot of it, I'm sure, is because, my mom was just was trying so much just to support the family of 6 kids with my dad. And they just had some really tough times themselves growing up. And I think for them, they just felt like their focus needed to be their family, and community
Mhm.
outreach kinds of things just weren't something that they really had, I guess, the inkling or the ability to put that kind of time into.
Yeah, um, my family is similar to that. I mean, they weren't really very involved, my parents, in community things. But for some reason, I always was,
Mhm.
particularly youth groups and my friends. And I was very involved in my high school, in leadership roles athletically. I was a class president, on the student council. Um, it just seemed kind of a natural thing that I wanted to be a part of. Um, and, you know, I come from a background like Barb where family was very important.
Mhm.
We held family in the highest regard, and I always extended that to other people. So, um, I remember in high school being kind of the protector of people that were picked on. I hated it when people bullied people and picked on people, and being someone that most people looked up to, and I kind of, got involved in those things, and I protected people that I considered good people that were friends of mine, and the word was don't mess with them or Greg would be upset. So, I hated that. I hated the bullying and picking on people. Um, so, we got involved with NAMI because of family issues. People in our immediate family that were having mental health issues. We were looking for support, and we finally found NAMI, but it wasn't here. There wasn't a NAMI in Eau Claire.
Mhm.
We ended up going to Chautauqua to take a NAMI class. And during that class, I made the comment to Barb that I needed to look into what it would take to start a NAMI in Eau Claire. And then I heard that they were starting a new one. And so we ended up going to the meetings. And before you knew it, we were deeply involved in NAMI Chippewa Valley. And once we took the class and got through it and were involved with the NAMI, it just became like, this helped us. I mean, we got so much from this NAMI class that we went to, for the support and talking to people that actually understood what was going on for the first time. I mean, they were experiencing the same things we were. Um, it just became a natural thing to say, we need to make this possible for more people. We need to help others experience this. We need to, not only do that for them, but for us to help other people. And so that's how, we and why we continue to be involved.
Yeah, one thing that I forgot about that I, hadn't thought about for a long time is after my senior year in high school, I actually heard about this program where I could go and live in the convent in Dubuque, Iowa. I'm originally from Iowa, as you know, and volunteer to work with elderly who were homebound. And my parents weren't exactly what I would say super supportive of me wanting to do that. They were more thinking that I should be getting a paid type job and working in the summer. But I was really, really kind of drawn to doing that. And it was a pretty awesome experience. I just remember I got to meet different people my age from other parts of the state that were interested in doing it. And I just remember that just being a really cool experience.
Well, in NAMI Chippewa Valley, obviously I see you every year at the suicide prevention walk, and that's something that's really near and dear to my heart. And I work a lot with LGBTQ youth who there's often elements of struggling with mental health
Yes.
due to feelings of less than worthiness or welcome.
Right.
And so, I wonder, the values that, come from your childhood or being you, or just being human. I wonder
Yeah.
how that translates into that fire to do the work you do.
Yeah, I think like Greg, I remember too in high school being very sensitive to how others were treated, and the fact that I grew up during the time when there were race riots in the town that I grew up in, and we had very few Blacks that were at the Catholic high school that I went to, but I was really drawn to trying to, in classes that I was in with some of them, talking with them and trying to better understand and be aware of what they were going through. And like Greg said too, some of the students that were in some of my classes that I knew were being teased and not treated in a way that was respectful. I tried as much as I could to connect with them and talk with them.
Right.
So yeah, and I think for the LGBTQ youth now, they really need that from the caring adults to notice when that's happening if they're at school or in a group of, some sort of organization of some kind. And I think that we weren't aware of that at all when we were growing up, of that sort of happening. I mean, that was just not something that anybody talked about or was.
If it was happening, it was taboo.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was not at all common knowledge that that was
even a lifestyle or,
right.
No. No, the other thing I was thinking is that, we ended up coming to the UU church. Barb grew up Catholic, I grew up Lutheran. Both of us did not have positive experiences in those religions growing up.
Some.
I guess I did too, but I just they were too rigid, at least my church was. You couldn't have a discussion with the minister about things, as I found out in confirmation when I was asked to go home. So, when Barb and I were looking for a church to attend, I told her, well, you go around the churches because I'm not going to all these churches. And, you find one that you think we might be able to might like. And so she says, well, there's this one down the, with the university and all this, and some of the professors, and it's pretty liberal. And so I said, okay. So we went down there, and it's like, well, yeah, I mean, I can fit in here quite easily. We both are fairly liberal people. in most aspects of life. And, but as we've talked too, I mean, the guiding principles of the UU, I mean, I totally agree with all of them. I mean, one of the things that we talk a lot about with our NAMI groups is the fact that, a mental illness is a biological disease. We try and see the individual first, not the illness. There's a person there, and that person is having issues, is having some sort of brain issues. But that person is still there. And so it's sort of like the worth and, dignity of everybody, whether they're sick, they're white, they're purple, they're green, blue, I mean, whatever, they have some dignity and worth. They are human beings. I gravitated towards, being involved with the UU Church. And
yeah, it's interesting how now that we've been involved for going on 10 years, there's certainly some of the people from the support group that we don't, that come for a while and then we don't see them, but then all of a sudden somebody will show back up and need support again, that maybe things were going okay for a while. I guess one of the things that we encourage people to do is to try and connect with each other in, outside of the group whenever they need to. And I know some of them have. It's kind of hard for us to stay connected with everybody that comes through in the classes, but I know that some of them have connected with each other, which is what we really want, is for them to make those connections to someone in particular in the group that they kind of have similar experiences, similar situations, that then they can find ways to support each other outside of being in the groups that we form.
We do know that some of the, particularly our family-to-family classes, which is, it's an educational, part of it is educational, talking about, diseases and communication skills and a whole bunch of different things. But part of it also is the social part of these people. Actually, a lot of them, just like us, when we took the family-to-family class, was the first time that we actually had been able to talk to someone who was going through the same things that we were going through. And so there's kind of this, connection. We know that those groups, those classes, some of those groups still get together to support each other. They've kind of formed their own little support group in some cases, which is fantastic, and we love that. It's an offshoot of our activities, and it's really nice that people feel that connection.
What is the hope that you find in the work that you do?
Hope.
I would say,
hard to talk about hope in 2020, but what's hope?
it's a challenging time to be hopeful, isn't it? Yeah, but we try our best to find ways to dig it out from somewhere, because it can be a struggle. I think really one of the, I guess, kind of positive sides of what I'm hoping is perhaps going to come out of this pandemic situation is the fact that people are becoming much more aware of the importance of our mental health and how it impacts so much of who we are and how we carry out our day-to-day lives. And when people are struggling, how much it affects everybody around them as they're at work, in their families. And so that's what I'm believing and hoping, is that now it's becoming much more of something that people are talking about and being more aware of as being not something that we should keep hidden from each other.
You know, the other thing too is that along, you know, part of the positive part of the Black Lives Matter is the effect on police departments. The police department have become first responders for most mental health issues, which they were never designed to be. They were, you know, the officers do an amazing job. I have nothing but praise and respect for anyone who is a police officer. They have a tough
Put their
job.
lives on the line
Right.
every day.
Yeah. I mean, they have a tough job, and they're responding to situations and things that, in some cases, they weren't trained for. Although the Eau Claire Police Department, in particular, has been doing a lot of CIT, crisis intervention training, which we're very supportive of, and have been supporting the CIT program in the Eau Claire Police Department through NAMI for several years since it started, and we will continue to do that. But my hope is that, you know, that the community realizes there has to be more resources. I mean, that is the biggest issue. People need help, and they can't get it. They can't get in to see a psychiatrist for 6 months. You know, and you know, police officers should not be responding to a mental health thing, you know, as the first responders. There should be some other system. A lot of places, other communities have, you know, other systems in place. I mean, to take that off of their plate then frees up the police department to do other things that they were more designed to do. So, you know, my hope is that, you know, there are changes that will occur to that will, you know, increase community resources for people. I mean, that is the biggest issue that we see constantly is people need help, want help, and yet they can't get help because they can't find it or it doesn't exist.
Right.
And, you know, they can't access it. That is the root of the problem.
When I attended a QPR class that you all did, I remember being made aware of language, the power of language, and one of the things that, you know, just like you say, you know, living with mental illness, or, you know, not I am the mental illness, you know, and the other thing that you said of talking about if someone does complete a suicide instead of committing suicide, and I think language is very powerful right now in our culture. You know, like you mentioned, Black Lives Matter, and we also think of LGBTQ youth. You know, who matters and who doesn't, who has worth, who doesn't, and the way you were talking about mental illness, you know, as any other illness, just like having diabetes, you know, there's that stigma that comes with it, and shame that, you know, trying to get that out of our society.
Right. Yeah, the stigma piece is definitely still very much alive in our culture with mental illness. But again, what the studies have found the best way for people to help defeat that whole issue around stigma is people sharing their experiences. And you have to know how to do it and when to do it, when it's safe to do it. It's not something that you want people just being very outspoken about if it's not the best situation for them to do that. But they find that the more people share with each other and open up about it, and we find that in our classes, we have people talk about that all the time when they take the class, and then they'll share with somebody that they work with or a friend about it. And then all of a sudden that person will start to then open up a little bit and say, well, I do have, a sister or a nephew or someone that the reality is that there's hardly anybody that hasn't had a friend or close relative of some kind that is dealing with mental health issues. But so many people feel afraid to talk about it.
Well, in most cases, I think all of us have, at some point or another in our lives, experienced, some sort of maybe
Emotional,
minor,
Mhm.
anxiety issues or depression issues. Probably not to the extent that people, who really suffer life-altering,
Right.
debilitating
Right.
episodes have had. But all of us have issues.
Yeah.
We're no different. They're no different. It's just the level or severity of it, and the effect of it on their functionality.
Able to
So,
function in life, and do the things, their job, or take care of their family,
Yeah, and right
have
now,
relationships.
yeah, right now people are talking about the low level of anxiety in the system, and everywhere I turn, there's how to practice self-care during COVID,
Mm-hmm.
um, and yeah, I think there maybe coming out of this, there'll be more empathy
Mm-hmm.
for what
Mm-hmm.
it's like to
Yeah.
to have to function when you're
Mm-hmm.
dealing with these things.
Definitely. That's one of my hopes. Yes.
There you go. There's hope.
Oh,
Well, well, thank you for sharing. Are there any last thoughts that you want to share about NAMI or some of the needs that are present that you see right now?
well, I just encourage people who are looking for just more information that the NAMI website from national, the state website has a lot of information, but the national website is just really has tremendous amount of resources and information to help people. Whether it's they themselves dealing with mental health issues or a family member or friend who's just wanting to find out more. NAMI resources have so much that they can offer to people to better educate them and help them understand various things about mental illness, different types, and membership in the organization. You can join for as little as $5, and there's great publications that they put out that you get as part of that membership.
Right.
And
the membership benefits, part
All
of
of it.
your dues go to us, part of it goes to the state, and part of it goes to the national. It's split three ways. Actually, we get a little more than the state and the national does, but so yes, we encourage, it's one way for us to have people involved and to support us, and so we encourage that.
Yeah.
And we're anybody needs any sort of help or resources, give us a call, send us an email. We're always available.
And if we don't have the answer, we try to help them figure out where they might find the answer.
So it's
Somewhere.
NAMI Chippewa Valley. I know you have a Facebook page.
And a
We have a
website.
website,
Okay, I'll make sure to,
namicd.org.
Yep.
okay, I'll make sure we share out the link. Well, thank you for all you do, and I hope that the Packers keep winning, and
Me too.
and I hope that
Yeah.
that things.
We'll win the COVID Super Bowl. That's probably what they're going to start calling it next.
Well,
Interesting.
thank you, Julie, for giving us a chance to share about our time with a great organization that has become important to us.
Thank you.